This was the plane that promised to change the world. The Havilland Comet, the world's first commercial jet airliner. It was sleek, futuristic, and decades ahead of its time. It could fly higher, faster, and smoother than anything the world had ever seen. But just a few years after its glorious debut, the dream came crashing down in one of aviation's most tragic lessons.
9180, I have your departure instructions.
This is the story of how Britain soared into the jet's age and how the Comet became both a pioneer and a warning for the future of flight. The Second World War was still raging when Britain began looking beyond the battlefield and into the future of air travel. In 1943, the UK cabinet formed the Havilland Committee, tasked with imagining what aviation would look like after the war. Among its ambitious ideas was a pressurized transatlantic mailplane, an aircraft that could carry cargo across oceans at 400 miles per hour. At the time, most experts dismissed jet engines as too fuel-hungry and unreliable for such a role, but one man thought differently, Sir Geoffrey de Havilland. As both a member of the committee and the head of the Havilland Company, he championed a bold proposal to build not a propeller aircraft, but a pure jet airliner. The committee had to accept his darling vision, and the project was designated Type 106 after it was assigned to the Havilland Company. Now, the Havilland had to face an enormous challenge. Not only would his company design the airframe, they also had to create the engines because no existing turbojet manufacturer had even drawn up specifications for the kind of power such an aircraft would need. And this not only made it the riskiest of the committee's designs, but also the most revolutionary. The chief designer, Ronald Bishop, the mastermind behind the legendary Mosquito bomber, now faced a new challenge: building the world's first jet airliner. At first, the ideas were bold, almost too bold because they featured canards, swept wings, even tailless jets. But in the end, safety won over ambition. A more conventional design was chosen, and by 1947, the design was finalized and given a name that would soon make history: the Comet. It looked every bit the future of aviation because it featured a sleek low-wing jet with its 4 ghost turbojets hidden neatly in the wing roots, a modern flight deck with a crew of pilots, an engineer and a navigator, a spacious cabin with large windows, reclining slumber seats, hot meals, a bar, and even separate lavatories for men and women. Against the noisy and comfortable piston-driven airliners of the day, the Comet was a revelation. It was quiet, it was smooth, and vibration-free. It even offered comfort and speed unlike anything passengers had ever experienced. The Comet was the future of air travel. The prototype Comet took the skies in 1949, and just 3 years later, in 1952, British Overseas Airways Corporation proudly put it into service. With 10 of the Comets ordered, Britain had created the world's very first commercial jet airliner. The response was electric. The Comet soared at 40,000 feet high above the storms and turbulences, and passengers floated in silence, enjoying a ride so smooth, so quiet, it felt like the future had already begun. The Jet 8 had already arrived, but behind the glamour and behind the excitement lurked dangers no one yet understood. Then came tragedy. Between 1953 and 1954, disaster struck as several comets mysteriously broke apart in mid-air. The world was stunned. How could the pride of British aviation collapse so suddenly and without warning? The investigation uncovered a chilling truth. The Comet's square windows and thin metal skin made it dangerously vulnerable to metal fatigue. With every flight, repeated pressurization cycles caused tiny cracks to form at the corners of the windows, and these cracks expanded until the fuselage catastrophically failed at high altitude. The discovery was devastating, but it also changed how aircraft would be built forever. After the crashes, the Comet's fleet was grounded and engineers had to launch intensive tests, placing fuselage in water tanks to simulate thousands of flight cycles and uncover the causes of the failures. And their findings reshaped aviation. Windows had to be rounded, not squared. Fuselage structures required stronger, fatigue-resistant designs, and rigorous stress testing became essential before certification. Although the Havilland introduced improved models like Comet 4 with Rolls-Royce Avon engines, the damage to its reputation was permanent. Airlines had already moved on. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States capitalized on the moment. Boeing's 707 and Douglas's DC-8, which were larger, more efficient, and built on the lessons of the Comet, quickly took command of the jet age. The Comet never reclaimed its crown, but its influence was undeniable. It forced aviation to confront the realities of metal fatigue and safety, lessons written in tragedy, but vital for the future. Its innovations lived on: pressurized cabins, swept wings, engines buried in the wing roots. Even the French Caravelle borrowed its nose and cockpit layout. And the Comet 4, though no longer a passenger favorite, evolved into the Hawker-Siddeley Nimrod, a maritime patrol aircraft that served the RAF for decades. The Comet may have stumbled, but it paved the way for every jet airliner that followed. So I'll leave you with this question: was the Comet ahead of its time, or simply a victim of its own ambition? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, and see you in the next video.